The next MotoGP comes from Le Mans in France, and you can see it here on 5 in a couple of weeks. Don't worry, it doesn't last for 24 hours. Next, we make our way to Nazareth, Pennsylvania for round 3 of the FedEx Kart Championship Series. The drivers must all be champing at the steering wheel after last week's cancelled race in Texas. The 1-mile oval circuit won't really suit the street racing skills of Britain's Dario Franchitti, but Michael Andretti is expected to do well.
Kart ran at more than 230 miles an hour at Texas, causing the drivers to experience heavy G-forces, requiring the cancellation of the race. Today, Nazareth is a fast and furious oval, with lower G-forces and speeds around 170 miles per hour. Next on ESPN. Welcome to Nazareth Speedway in Nazareth, Pennsylvania for the third round of the Kart FedEx Championship Series. It's the Nazareth 225 scheduled to run on this 1-mile oval out in the fields of Nazareth. A beautiful day for racing. We've had some up and down weather, but today will be absolutely perfect. My name is Guy Hobbs and I'm alongside Jeremy Shaw.
And on Friday it was 90 degrees plus here, really hot and sticky, and then it cooled right down for qualifying yesterday. And today, look at that nice bright blue sky, picture perfect conditions, Guy. We're going to have a great race this afternoon.
No threat of rain, which is also good news as the fans start to fill out in the crowds. And some prizes from qualifying. The rookie Bruno Junqueira took the pole, the third consecutive one for Chip Ganassi here at Nazareth. Kenny Brack was also very quick again, his 4th front row start. Michel Jourdain and his Lola Ford got his best qualifying effort ever in, and Oreo Sevilla also was a bit of a surprise with the 4th quickest time for the Sigma team.
Yeah, those Lolas really running strong in qualifying yesterday. They seem to have a bit more downforce than the Reynards, and that really showed in qualifying, Guy.
As the field of 25 cars do their reconnaissance lap on the Nazareth Speedway, getting ready for a green flag. Nazareth Speedway, the 225 set to run here, race number 3 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series. We got to talk about rookie starting from the pole. Let's take a look at the whole grid here, Jeremy. Junqueira on that pole, the rookie, and alongside him will be Kenny Brack, his 4th consecutive front row start. In row 2 it is Michel Jourdain, the best qualifying ever, and Oriol Servia, who makes it an all-Lola front 4 cars.
On row 3, Elio Castroneves, the best of the Reynards. That team based only 50 miles away. Adrian Fernandez, a big improvement after struggling in practice. On row 4, Brian Herter again showing well for Zach Speed Forsyth, and Paul Tracy for Team Cool Green.
Cristiano D'Amato starts on the inside of row 5. He is our points leader, and Tony Kanaan alongside him. His first win came on an oval. And further back, Jimmy Vasser, his 150th career start, and Dario Franchitti still looking for his first oval win.
Michael Andretti, the hometown hero. He's won here in 87 and 1996, but starting way back there alongside Max Papis. Big spin. Gilles de Ferran, the defending champion, back on row 8 with Roberto Moreno.
In row 9 it is Christian Fittipaldi in his 99th career start, and Toru Takagi, the rookie, who was 3rd quickest in the warm-up this morning. Then it's Shinji Nakano and Alex Tagliani, who had engine problems in practice and qualifying yesterday.
The other Alex, that's Zanardi, he's way back on row 11. Nothing going right for him yet this season. Patrick Carpentier, he was struggling with handling problems in qualifying. Scott Dixon, he's had various difficulties this weekend. Max Wilson, well, he selected 4th gear instead of 6th in qualifying. That wasn't too good for the engine. Way back on row 13, though, Nicolas Menassian. Big crash in turn 2 in qualifying. He will start the backup car guy from the back of the grid.
Really, that was only the major crash we had. We had a couple of others with Max hitting the wall as well, Max Papis. Here you can see the track description, nowhere near the banking we saw at Texas, but turns 3 and 4 the quickest part of the track.
Yeah, down to 190 miles an hour. They go downhill into turn 3. Yeah, downhill, that's right. Look at that elevation change, 34 feet at least here at Nazareth Speedway. That's one of the distinguishing features about this tri-oval circuit, and very distinct tracks, and a long dive down the hill into turn 3.
Nazareth, Pennsylvania is set for the 225, and again, let's look at the grid as they get ready to roll off here. Bruno Junqueira, the rookie, with the pole position. You talked about turns 3 and 4, Jeremy. A lot of guys seem to be having some trouble getting off of turn 4, and that's where we're seeing some incidents.
Yeah, we are. They're having some trouble getting the heat into the tyres, and we look down the grid there, all these guys down the back, the 3 rookie drivers in the back, and as I said, Menassian now will start from last position, and he was out in the warm-up with the backup car, so the Ganassi cars first and last on the grid.
Stories here this weekend are going to be, you'd have to have really good pit stops, you've got to get good clean overtaking, try and conserve some fuel, and obviously be patient out there. Bruno Junqueira is one of our cameras we will have for you. Nicolas Menassian is also one. Scott Dixon as they get side by side, and hopefully Jim Swintal can give us a green flag and we can get race number 3 finally going here in the Kart FedEx Championship Series as the field comes off of turn 4. And under heavy acceleration, looks like we've got good side by side, and we do get a green flag. And Junqueira, the rookie, oh, look at that, getting pinched down by Kenny Brack beautifully into turn 1. Oh, we have someone off. I think that's Brian Herter.
I think it is. Yes, it's Herter who lost control there. Did he keep it off the fence there on the inside? I think maybe he did there. Cold Tires is very, very crowded there on the inside of the corner. We saw, as you said, Kenny Brack squeeze Junqueira up onto that curb. And that was a good save from Junqueira to keep it off, keep the car in motion and going forwards. Herter not able to do so. You can see that big flat spot on that right front tyre of the Reynard.
And he's desperate to get going again, so he doesn't want to go a lap down if they can get him pulled. And here is a replay of that start.
And Herter is on the back of the pack there. He just one of the, I think it was Cristiano, the manager, was outside there. He was trying to pinch it down coming off that corner. Of course, in Champ Car racing, unlike in Formula 1, they do not have tyre warmers. Look at Herter is on the inside there, and you can see D'Amata comes right down on him going into the corner. Just see it out of the corner of the frame, and there he goes. Oops, he loops that car around. As I say, they do not have tyre warmers. It's very difficult to get those tyres up to optimum working temperature with just 3 parade laps prior to that green flag guy.
And Oriol Servia had a good start. Looked like he was almost threatening Junqueira for second, but couldn't quite get by him. Brack is our leader. Junqueira is second, Servia third, Jourdain fourth. Green flag waves on yellow immediately as well, because someone coming off of turn 4 had a problem. Whoa! Right in front of us, Joe. Amazing. Off the racetrack, the pace car came flying through the pit lane, and the safety truck came flying out of the pit lane, and they almost T-boned each other on their rush to get to turn 4, where someone had trouble getting off of turn 4 and brought out this yellow.
That would have been a bit embarrassing, especially as the Kart CEO and President Joe Heitzler was standing right there. He's right in front of our booth. He doesn't look very happy at the moment.
Oh, a lot of head shaking going on there. That was a very close moment.
Here's a replay. You can see one of the 2 Penske cars. That is Helio Castro Neves spinning there, coming off turn 4. He gets it back underway again. But wow, that was a hairy moment for Castro Neves. And meanwhile, at the front, just out of the picture there, you can see actually Oriol Servia made a great restart. He got past Junqueira. Junqueira was left for dead at the restart, did not get on the throttle at all. Kenny Brack got a huge jump, and also Servia got past him as well.
So Elio, with the moment we mentioned at the top of the show, turn 4 is where people are having trouble getting back on the power. Max Papis had 2 incidents over the weekend. On Saturday morning, he had an absolutely fabulous save, and then he did it again, but the second time was unable to save the car and put it into the wall, but not too heavily damaged. So there you see Elio. Elio did have a moment earlier in the weekend, but obviously a bigger moment right there, because these guys are doing everything they can to get up through the field as quick as they can, because overtaking is an absolute priority here, but very hard to do.
Yeah, it is, and hopefully third time will prove a charm for this lot. We can get this race underway. But
I was actually talking to the players guys before the race about the setup for Patrick Carpentier, and they said, well, Christian Fittipaldi's got a cut rear left tyre, I believe, and a lot of smoke coming out of there too. Just to go back to the players guys, I was talking to them how they were going to set up the car for Patrick today, starting as far back as he did. They said we're going to set the car up for restarts, so he's good on restarts, because we think there's going to be a lot of yellows, and then we can get him and he can get some positions on the restarts. Last year we had 8 yellow flags here for 81 laps, which is the most we've had, so maybe it could be a good plan.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And you know, it is very difficult here when the cars are on cool tyres and they're not really up to temperature. It's a very, very fast track. Bruno Junqueira was talking when he won the pole on Saturday. He was saying, you know, the quickest corner he's ever come across before he came to the Champ Car Series was at Eau Rouge at Spa-Francorchamps. Look, this is the original start of the race. And we can see that Kenny Brack comes across. He lives just about a car width there, and Junqueira, a little bit cautious, gets up on the inside just to make sure he doesn't make contact, trying to leave room for Kenny Brack.
I don't think Kenny really did anything wrong. There we see Scott Dixon coming in, and we should point out a little bit of a different paint scheme on that car. Scott is carrying the colours of Nextel this weekend because, as you probably noticed from the starting grid, Mauricio Gugelmin not here this weekend, and we should send out our best wishes to Mauricio. It wasn't because of the accident in Texas. Unfortunately, Mauricio blessed with 2 twins, 2 6-year-old twins, but the youngest of the 2, Giuliano, unfortunately passed away this weekend. or this week on Wednesday. So Mauricio not here this weekend, and our best to him and his family.
Yeah, you're right. Giuliano was born with a lot of difficulties. He's had a hard 6 years, for that entire family, but it's a very strong family, just lovely people are Mauricio and Stella Gugelmin, and certainly our best wishes for them and Giuliano's brother Bernardo and a younger boy Gabriel as well.
Brian Herter coming back into the pits again. This will be his second stop as he work on his car from that original spin. There's Brian. And he will be, well, they're trying to get him going, get back out. He's trying to beat the pace car out, and there he has just done it. Just beaten the pace car. Christian Fittipaldi with his new paint job, second week running that one. The blue light special. Christian didn't qualify as well as he would like, but he does like racing here. Oh, we mentioned, of course, Texas, they postponed or cancelled that race, and here you can look at the G-force comparisons, that 24-degree banking compared to the 6-degree banking here at Nazareth. And, of course, this track only a 1 mile oval. Texas a 1.5 mile oval. Kenny Brack brings the field around for green flag, and again he gets a good jump on Oriol Servia, then Bruno Junqueira. Oh, a bit of a wobble there for Michel Jourdain coming into turn 1. And it is all single file at this point. The lap times here, about 19 and 20 seconds, so it flies by.
And there is Damana looking down there, make a pass on Tony Kanaan, not able to make that happen. That is the battle at the moment for 7th position, and Tony Kanaan there, he started in 10th, so he's already made up a couple of places, 3 places, thanks to some mistakes in front of him, and the field streams through, and finally we've got some racing on our hands here, and some plenty of close action all the way up and down this field.
Talking to some of the drivers yesterday, talking about how they hadn't had a chance to really set the car up for long runs. We talked about the weather yesterday. Rain was intermittent, and the second practice group actually lost 15 minutes of practice. So Alex Tagliani had problems with his original car. They went to the backup car. It rained, they never got the car out. He only got 6 laps of practice in yesterday. So a lot of these guys were unable to do any long run testing as far as full tanks and everything else. And so far we haven't had any long runs, but 14 laps are complete. Kenny Brack is our leader.
Yeah, we've got 3 laps now under green, and Kenny Brack there, the lap time last time around 22.0 seconds. And this is an interesting thing. We had a Toyota Atlantic race run earlier this morning. It was actually won by Tony Arve, and you know what? He was turning laps at exactly that same speed, 22 flat in the race. Those cars have a lot more downforce than the Champ cars do. They've really trimmed the downforce on these cars, trying to get the lap speeds down again. And the early stage of the race, Kenny Brack running pretty conservatively, and the Atlantic cars absolutely as quick, and they're going quick around the corners. Actually flat out around this track was Tony Arve this morning. Very interesting indeed. Last time around 21.9 for Kenny Brack.
And that's great to see Tony Arve having a good comeback. He's been out of racing for a couple of years because he had a major crash up at Road America, but good for him.
Yeah, drove a great race actually, under pressure the whole time from Hoover Orsi, the young Brazilian, but plenty of action here. We are on board with Bruno Junqueira, the pole sitter. He's fallen back to 3rd place with a couple of conservative efforts at the start of this race and the restart, and really that was to be expected. He's never done a start on an oval before or a restart, so he really didn't have a clue what to expect. The team tries to tell him as much as they can, but there's really no way you can prepare yourself for this sort of action on this sort of intensity at this track.
And he did actually mention that yesterday after the qualifying. He was overjoyed to get the pole, but then he suddenly felt all this pressure. He's like, oh no, now I've got to deal with starts and restarts and everything else. There's a look at the 2 players, guys, as they try and work their way up through the field. And sandwich Tora Takagi. I mentioned earlier, he was 3rd quickest in the warm-up this morning. Quite a big improvement for him.
Yeah, he did a good job, and the 2 Japanese drivers certainly expressing themselves well this season. We saw Shinji Nakano drives for Fernandez Racing. He scored his first point last weekend, and here's a replay of Takagi there just slipping past one of the players' cars, Patrick Carpentier, down into turn 3, and maybe Carpentier getting the place back again on the exit of the corner.
Those guys are getting close to getting lapped. I again talked to Patrick this morning. He said he thinks it'll be about 20 laps before they start lapping us. And sure enough, here we are.
Yeah, we're on lap 19. We've got lap 19 in the books. Lap 20, and here we are. There is Brian Herter. He's already one lap down and about to go another lap down to Kenny Bracken. He doesn't leave much room on the inside there, but Brett gets through in any case. And behind...
Max Wilson is his next target now.
That's right.
And of course, Kenny would like to put as much traffic as possible in between himself and Oriol Servia, who runs in second. And a very impressive Sigma team, which was put together at the last few moments. Tom Waringa, the owner, did some racing himself, but hardly a racing expert, but obviously loves racing, put that whole team together, and they have performed very, very well at the start of this season.
Yeah, superb effort there. It's a brand new team, as you say, and a lot of experience though in that team. The chief engineer, Dave Luff, he doesn't have a lot of experience in the champ cars, but a lot of time in Europe in Formula 1 and particularly Formula 3000 lately, and some good crew chiefs there. The team manager is Phil Howard. He's got a lot of time in the champ car series. Actually, we've had another Englishman as well. And the crew chief on the car, Mark Mason, he used to work in Formula 1 with the Benetton team some years ago. He's been with Dale Coyne since then. So again, a lot of experience. That team really gelled together very, very quickly, Guy.
Seeing those pictures there with Bruno, you saw how close he got up behind the car in front. The problem is, they say, when you get within about 5 to 8 feet is when the dirty air really starts to affect the car, so it's very hard to get up. We're using the Hanford Mark II low downforce wing this year, so we should have racing similar to what we had in 1999. We should be able to get some overtaking. Take a look at Michel Jourdain, Herdez Bettenhausen team, also doing very well here this weekend. Whoa! Bruno cutting that one a bit too low. You heard him how he had to get off the gas there for a second too. Yes,
you did. And down the hill into turn 3 here, onto the brakes there. Pretty heavily onto the brakes down in turn 3. Now feed the power on smoothly. Come out of that final corner, past the start-finish line there, and almost flat out through turn 1. Still heavy fuel load with these cars though. Carry 35 gallons of ethanol, so they're carrying a good 200 pounds worth of fuel extra on top of the 1,550 pounds that they have to weigh going into this event.
We saw Michel Jourdain there, because his engineer Tom Brown. And Michel said, I'd like to thank Tom, because he's the one who put the car up as far higher up in the field as he did, at third place starting position. That's his highest starting position too for Michel Jourdain in his career.
That's right. The previous best was a 5th at Fontana, way back in '97, actually driving for Dale Coyne. He had a couple of good runs towards the end of that season, and then had a couple of rough years, but now he's right back on form. That confidence is back for that young Mexican driver. He's only 24 years of age, but now his true talent, I believe, is shining through, Guy.
You mentioned Dale Coyne. He is not here again this weekend with Michael Crump or Luis Garcia Jr.
Yeah.
Bobby Rahal is not here to witness Kenny Brack leading this race, but David Lederman, his co-owner, is. Kenny Brack continuing up front, and actually looks like he's extending the gap a little bit, because he's put that traffic in between him and Oriol Servia, and the gap now just almost 6.5 seconds.
Yeah, it's extending all the time here. At the time he can't get away past Scott Dixon, who is the next car in front of him there. Scott Dixon is running back in 22nd place, and ahead of him is Alex Zanardi there at the bottom of the picture. There is Michel Jourdain Jr. He's still running in 4th place, and certainly running a great show this afternoon, as in front of us is pushed away the number 32 players car of Patrick Carpentier. An apparent engine problem or something pretty catastrophic there, and that car is out of the action.
Well, actually, they qualified with that engine in the car, because the Ford guys wanted them to change an engine for the qualifying run, but the team owner said, I don't want to do 2 engine changes in one day. We'll just qualify that engine, even though it's down about 400 RPM. That's why they didn't get such a great qualifying spot. And now, obviously, they've only managed about 20-odd laps here before losing the engine.
Patrick, at the moment, he has climbed from the car after lots of water to put out some flames. We heard a car go off song. Was that you?
Sorry about that?
We heard a car's engine go off song. That was yours?
Yeah, at the beginning of the race, had absolutely no power, and it kept getting worse. I asked them to check the boost, because I thought it would be the pop-up valve blowing off, but it was not. The engine went down, and then in the back, going on the back straight, I smelled something. I looked in the mirror, saw the smoke, so I jumped in the pits not to stop the race.
How's the wrist holding up? How's your wrist holding up?
It was okay this weekend. Let me tell you that the wrist has been better than the car.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. The wrist has been better than the car. Strange, actually, that Patrick would get this first time to test his wrist, because that's where he came back from the wrist injury last year, was here at Nazareth. Because he was supposed to test it at Texas last week, but that race off. Adrian Fernandez there, running and being chased at this point by Paul Tracy in the cool car, Team Green, and then Tony Kanaan and Christian de Matter. Cristiano de Matter, of course, our points leader in the championship, 37 points. Tony Kanaan not scoring so many points, but he, along with Christian Fittipaldi, said this weekend it's so important to finish well in this race and in the next 3 oval races that we have, because they want to be high up in the championship so that they can get into the right group when it comes time to go back to street races and road courses, so they're in the good group for qualifying. With that new rule, of course, on those qualifying sessions, the 2 groups are now, instead of done by practice speeds, they're decided by points. So the top 14 go out in the second group, and it's always better to go on the second group on a street course or a road circuit, because the track tends to get better as the day goes on.
Right, in the meantime, out at the front of the field, Kenny Breck still lapping pretty consistently, around about 22.7 seconds, so that's 3/4 of a second slower than the Toyota Atlantic cars were running. That's absolutely incredible. I'm really surprised by that. I thought they were going to be doing 21s, mid-21s was my reckoning for the race speed, so I'm a good way off. So 22.9, 23, most of the field doing 22.6, 22.7, but Kenny Breck is held up behind the car of, there's 2 cars of Alex Tagliani and Scott Dixon. They're running in 20th and 21st place, and the race leader cannot find a way past. That's the bad news. The good news is he's still got a pretty healthy lead of now 4.5 seconds over Oriol Serbia, and then a little bit farther back, there is Serbia, and there is this man. That is Serbia there in 2nd place, and behind him is Bruno Junqueira.
And you can see there, while we were riding with Bruno, you can see he's actually had 2 of the fast lap times, so Bruno's settled in at this point. Riding back on board with him, the Formula 3000 champion, also the South American Formula 3 champion from 1997, where Nelson Piquet's son now races in that South American Formula 3 championship. Bruno, you can see that not too much vibration or movement in that steering wheel, making some adjustments there.
Yeah, I think an adjustment there to the roll bar, one of the roll bars of the car, either the front or the back. I'm not couldn't really see the car. Maybe pushing just a little bit there coming off turn 3. Maybe just trying to compensate for that. As the fuel load burns off on these cars, then the weight distribution and the handling balance of the car does go away. Of course, ideally, the designer of the race car would put that fuel tank, that 35-gallon fuel tank, smack bang in the middle of the car, so that it does not affect the overall weight balance of the car as that weight of the fuel burns off. Can't do that, of course, because you've got to put the driver in there. So as the fuel load does burn off, the car gets lighter, the weight balance of the car changes, and so does the handling balance of the car, and that's what the drivers are faced with, having to compensate for that weight balance adjustment as the race goes along. And that's why they have an adjustment in the cockpit, normally on the steering wheel, what they call the weight jacker. And what the weight jacker does, it electronically moves one of the spring shock components on one corner of the car. It'll maybe raise it just a little bit, and by raising that one corner of the car just a fraction, as Dixon there makes a move down the inside of Alex Zanardi, and yes, he does complete the move. Great move by Scott Dixon, and now can Kenny Breck get past Zanardi as well into turn 1? Oh, no, he can't, because Zanardi slams the door shut, guy.
Well, Zanardi got off a line with the Dixon move and out into the marbles and had to get out of the gas, which gave Kenny the run on him, but then Zanardi just cut right across the front of him through that turn. And Kenny Breck is having a hard time getting by Alex Zanardi at this point. Amazingly, Zanardi, with all his kart wins, did not win here at Nazareth.
He was never particularly happy, never had a really good car on these short ovals. He was never particularly comfortable with them. Certainly had some good performances on them, though, by the end of his time in the Champ Car Series. He's really just had, nothing has gone his way yet this season. He had niggly little problems in practice. In fact, they were really struggling on Friday. Just a dire understeer complaint, and the 2 Mo Nunn Racing Honda Reynards in practice. They did improve the cars pretty substantially for qualifying yesterday, but Zanardi certainly, he's struggling a little bit now, and he's trying desperately to stay on the lead lap and not allow Kenny Breck to go past him.
Interestingly, actually, Alex Zanardi missed the consistency from previous years. This year, he's only completed 41% of all the laps that have been run, and that is the worst of any driver out there at this point. So Alex trying to improve on that stat, and also, as you say, desperately trying to stay on the lead lap. You've got to stay on the lead lap So you're there for the end of the race.
Yeah, but look in his mirrors there. Actually, mirrors is one of the target cars. It's actually not the target car he needs to worry about. It is Nicholas Minassian, who is a lap down. As we look there at Alex Zanardi coming across the start-finish line one more time. Break behind him, and then Minassian and Max Wilson, and then the second and third place cars of Oriol Servia and Bruno Junqueira.
And Bruno has closed up on Oriol Servia, actually, quite significantly there. At the back of the picture, you can see, just as they came out of the turn there. Just to update on some others, Fernandez running in 5th, Paul Tracy 6th, Tony Kanaan is 7th, Cristiano D'Amata is 8th, Dario Franchitti in 9th now, Jimmy Vasser in 10th, Elio Castro Neves runs in 11th, Michael Andretti is 12th, Max Papis 13th, Gilles de Ferran 14th, Roberto Moreno 15th, Christian Fittipaldi 16th, Alex Tagliani 17th, and Toro Takagi is in 18th spot. As the race continues in Nazareth, 2:25, we're under green. Kenny Brack is our leader. Oriol Servia runs in 2nd, and Bruno Junqueira in 3rd, but closing up on Oriol Servia just a little bit. Kenny Brack still not able to get by Alex Zanardi, and they have been on the radio to Zanardi to let him know the leader is right. Well, obviously he knows, but to let him know. And the kart officials have been on the radio, but he's not moving, and he's not making it easy for Kenny to get by him.
No, and he's under no obligation to make it easy for Kenny Brack to get by him, just as long as he doesn't weave to prevent Kenny Brack from going past. If Brack has a faster car, then he'll be able to make a move. Is the way of thinking in this series, and as long as you don't physically block the other guy like you might try to do on a road course, as long as you don't do that, then you're not going to be black flagged. And certainly as long as Alex Zanardi maintains his line and doesn't do anything untoward, then he will not get the black flag from the new chief steward here, Chris Neifel.
And what he's trying to do, of course, is hang in there for about another 5 laps on the lead lap. And wait for the pit stops, and then maybe that'll rejuffle him and re-sort the traffic out, that he won't be in this position.
Right,
our pit window is coming up. I'm sorry, I said I got...
Fairly soon.
Yeah.
We hear that the pit stops will begin certainly within the next half dozen, 10 laps or so. And Alex is hoping for a yellow. He's hoping for a breather. If there's some kind of yellow, he can go around to the back of the pack and hopefully at least get away from that pressure of Kenny Brack all over his back end. We've looked there. That is Max Papis. He's running in 13th place. We hear he's complaining of gearbox difficulties on the car. Normally on an oval track, a gearbox difficulty really doesn't make that much effect because you don't really use the gearbox other than getting in and out of the pits. Nazareth, that's not the case. At Nazareth, you generally downshift into turn 3 because that's a pretty tight corner. They brake quite hard going to turn 3 and upshift again coming up to start-finish line. We hear that Kenny Brack, however, is stuck in 6th gear. That's certainly going to be a major problem in particular during the pits, as we got a glimpse there of David Letterman.
David Letterman was out having joyride fun laps in the pace car early this morning. Is Adrian Fernandez running in the 5th spot. Adrian, of course, been in the Championship Series for about 8 years, and this is his first year as an owner and running that 2-car team with Tom Anderson. And actually Adrian's best qualifying of the year this weekend here in Nazareth, so maybe he's getting back into the spirit of driving. They were concerned that maybe Adrian was so caught up in the ownership and all the responsibilities and the sponsors that go on that he really wasn't coming in thinking as a driver on these race weekends. And I think they had a word with him, and it seems like it's paid off. Yeah, that's true. I think that certainly the first race this season in Monterey, there was so much pressure on him. I mean, he is a mega star in Mexico, and everybody wanted a piece of Adrian Fernandez, and there is no doubt, I think, that did take away from his performance in the car. He wasn't able to work with his engineer, and meanwhile, Kenny Brack has got past Alex Zanardi and has pulled rapidly away from him. He just pulled out more than a second in 1 lap after getting round him, so he has now got a lot. Kenny Brack has a bit of breathing room over the 2nd place car of Oriol Servia, but that's the good news. The bad news is he's now behind a train of 4 cars comprising Tagliani, Takagi, Shinji Nakano and Scott Dixon. You know, it's actually going to be driving Max Papis fairly up the wall this weekend. We're seeing Kenny Brack performing so well, qualifying so well all year. Max now having problems, as we mentioned, with the gearbox here this weekend and not running very well. And amazing, the Rahal team only tested for 2 days on a 1-mile oval this winter, and that was at Phoenix. So for Kenny to be doing this well and have the car this good here on this one, Marlowe, was very impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. Of course, he's got a bit of a dab hand at the ovals, as we saw there. That was Bruno Junqueira getting past the lap car of Max Wilson. But Kenny Breck, of course, he's got a lot of experience on the ovals. He did a couple of years of the IRL. He won the championship, and he also won the Indianapolis 500. So there's not a whole heck of a lot that you can teach Kenny Breck about oval track driving.
Nicholas Minassi in the view out the back. Of course, Nicholas started at the back after that fairly heavy hit in qualifying yesterday. In fact, at one point, apparently, Nicholas from the infield hospital told the PR guy from the Ganassi team to tell Chip that the car was a bit loose coming off a floor. Well, yes, Nicholas, that's why you're lying in the infield medical centre. 71 of the 225 laps are complete. Pit stops are going to be coming up very soon. Pit stops are going to be absolutely critical here. Serbia coming up close, trying to get a run on Nicholas Minassian, and there he goes down the inside. Nice clean move.
And that's one target car dispensed with. The other one is right behind Minassi. We're on board with Nicholas here as he comes past start finish, and if he looks in his mirrors, you will see an identical car behind him. There it is there, the two target cars. One of them, as we say, a lap down in 22nd place, and the other car of Bruno Junqueira, the other rookie driver, running in third, and he is the best place of the rookies, obviously. The next best rookie is Takagi back in 18th. There's Alex Zanardi. We hear he's lost some pace there. I don't know whether the car has a mechanical problem, whether the handling balance has gone away. I think it might be the latter, but he is struggling and slipping back even farther down the field.
Well, as I said earlier, the rotten record this year. He's only completed 41% of all the laps being run. Alex Zanardi, of course, racing as a teammate to Tony Kanaan. Reynard Honda power, which he loved and enjoyed before. And actually, you see the two. Oh, we got a trouble with.
That's Jourdain. The fourth place car of Michel Jourdain spins across start finish line there. So there is a major development. The yellow flags are out, and now we will see the first round of pit stops. Quite sure what happened there. He was
coming off a 4 again, though, yeah. Jeremy.
Strange, so at this stage in the proceedings, he would lose control. Whether there was another car involved, I don't know. We didn't see it. Maybe we can get a replay and find out. But otherwise, just a moment's inattentiveness really is all you can put it down to. And yeah, there he is. He just gets the power on. We see there Paul Tracy trying to make a move on Adrian Fernandez as Jourdain spins there, gets everything is locked up there, trying to keep it in a straight line, keep it off the wall. He was able to do that, and he will bring it on around and make a pit stop, but a lot of ground lost for Michel Jourdain. He drops down to 15th place, and there he was. He was running right behind, I think it was Alex Zanardi, so whether the air from Zanardi's car took off the air to Michel Jourdain's and it just lessens the downforce that Jourdain Jr.'s cars have. He just looped that car, lost control, and around he goes.
And the race is going to be on now because, as we mentioned, pit stops incredibly important here at Nazareth. That's where you can get a lot of overtaking done, and pit lane is going to be open up in a second. We're going to see everyone come in because we're right on the pit window lap number 75 is where the pit window is set. So watch pit lane, and we'll keep a close eye on that, and they'll be allowed to come in next time by as they go by us behind the pace car. I think I saw Dario Franchitti just go by, overtake a car under yellow as they went into turn 1.
That's a no-no.
It is a no-no. Maybe just pulled alongside to give him some kind of hand gesture about making sure he's on pace, getting back around to the pit stop. Kenny Bratt brings him in first. Serbia right behind him. Third place driver Bruno Junqueira right behind him. Minassian stays out. He's going to try and work his way through this traffic because he is a lap down. On board with Bruno. Of course, Ganassi team very good. The best team out there. Team green as far as pit stops. Especially Paul Tracy's team. Bruno brings it in. First time he's ever raced on an oval.
Yeah, he locked him up there, coming a little bit too much speed there. And yeah, he's gone too far. He missed the pit, so they've got to push that car back there. The refueling hose would not reach. And look now, you see that single point refueling system on this car, and this will give a great opportunity for Oriol Serbia to make even more ground. Serbia has the first pit here. Kenny Breck just beating out of the pits. A great stop there by Cristiano De Mata, and then behind him, the whole pack was absolutely together. Fernandez is in there, and all sorts of people.
I tell you who had a great pit stop. Jimmy Vasser has picked up a bunch of positions on that pit stop. Jimmy Vasser, a great player. I was trying to figure out exactly how many positions he did make up. Kenny Brack held on to the lead. Serbia's pit is just right in front of us, and you can see the crew trying to get him out. And there's Max Papis, and again the gearbox problem. Remember, he only had 6. listening on the radio for a second.
We'll try and fix it right here.
So they're going to have a look at the gearbox. So that's what Max's problem was. Nicholas Minassian now has made his stop and come back out, and he's come back out ahead of Kenny Brack to try and remain and get a lap back. It's a sharp learning curve as far as driving out there with traffic. They've been out in single car qualifying, they've been out in practice and test sessions, but of course when you're testing there's only 1 or 2 cars on the track. Practice, you divide up into groups, so the first time they've really been out there with a full field of cars. Michel Jourdain rejoined, obviously new set of tyres and the pit stop for him, but he will be in 18th position right now, but does stay on the lead lap. A tough break for Michel Jourdain, who had his best qualifying effort ever, started 3rd and drops back to 18th.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the shuffling going on there. Gilles de Ferran had some sort of a problem. I don't know whether he stalled the engine, I don't know what it was, but he dropped from 14th before that round of pit stops to the last car on the lead lap, that is 18th, 19th actually, and also other movers. A great stop by Cristiano de Mata, we talked about him, moved him from 8th to 3rd. Also Adrian Fernandez going well, he's now in 4th place ahead of Helio Castroneves. Some of the losers in there were obviously Junqueira, he dropped way back to 11th place, and also surprisingly Paul Tracy, he dropped from 6th to 10th.
Surprising to hear that from the Team Cool Green team. Their record of pit stops is very good. However, the pit exit here, Jeremy, they approach the pit exit about 3 wide and it narrows down and they do have to get into single file, and that could be where he may have lost some of those positions, because eventually someone just has to get out of it and let someone else go through, or else he's going to have a mass pile up at pit out. Kenny Brack, having led 81 laps, he of course looking for bonus points. There you see the pit summary. Green flag for Kenny Brack, and looks like Junqueira passed Servia, and then Cristiano de Mata having a problem there too.
It wasn't Junqueira, that's actually Nicholas Minassian. So I don't know what happened to Servia on the restart. Minassian is a lap down. When he came out of his pit stop, he came out just behind the leader, so he must have had a pit stop. He of course made his pit stop a lap after everybody else, but it must have been a slow stop because he rejoined behind the race leader. And we see there that Servia is still in 2nd place, but quite why he has not been able to get way past Minassian, I think is quite surprising, and he's under pressure now from Cristiano de Mata.
Of course, Cristiano de Mata in the Newman Haas entry. This is the 299th start for the Newman Haas team since their formation back in 1983. Here's Michael Andretti, of course, so used to seeing him in the Newman Haas entry, now racing for the Team Motorola Team Green, racing a Honda for the first time, a Reynard for the first time, and of course Michael's had 2 wins here at his hometown track, and the last oval pole he had was here, but that was all the way back in 1992.
Yeah, he's won here in the 80s, he'd won here in the 90s, and now he'd like to win in the double O's, or whatever you call them now, in the year 2001. So 2 separate decades. Michael Andretti has a win under his belt here, and he'd love to make it number 3 this afternoon, as you say, in front of his home crowd. In fact, especially as there is talk that this will be the last visit of the Champ Cars to Nazareth Speedway, and there's been some talk over the weekend that maybe that won't now be the case. There is talk maybe of going return. Here's Max Fabris in the gearbox.
There's no problem on the gearbox. The cable broke from the gear lever to the back of the gearbox, and that put me off to the race. Very disappointed, because we had a very good car. I thought the Miller Lite car was very good, but I went down to pass Michael on the start, and when I went to downshift, the gear lever just went down, stayed in my hand, almost crashed into Helio, was in front of me, and that was it.
All right, hope you have better luck in Japan. Thanks.
Yeah, we hope so. It's not a very good stride for the Miller team, but we are upbeaten, we are strong, and we come back.
Max out of the local steakhouse last night, ordered his salad and steak, but it took him forever to eat it because there was a bunch of racing fans in there, and he was signing autographs, having pictures taken, chatting away and telling stories. And actually there's a TV show that was on called Lap of the Gods, which is vintage Formula One footage, and Max was staring at this and just getting really excited about the whole thing and enjoying himself.
Yeah, he's a real enthusiast here, and certainly there are a lot of enthusiasts in this area. The northeast of the United States is not particularly well served for champ car racing. This is really the one opportunity that the fans in this region have to see these cars in action, and I'm actually surprised there's not more of a crowd here this afternoon. I'd say the stands are maybe 2/3 full, but I thought there would have been more here this afternoon. The weather conditions absolutely perfect. I think an interesting race is in prospect here. We see Gilles de Ferran way at the back of the pack now, trying to get past Michel Jourdain Jr., who also, as a result of that spin, is not where he thought he was going to be when he started out this afternoon.
You mentioned the track here and talk of it being the last time they raced it. Of course, Roger Penske used to own the track, founded it in 1987. It was a dirt track, but there's actually a press release out this morning that the president, Craig Rust, the Nazareth president, is going to meet with CART after the Japan race, and they are going to try and see if they can't keep Nazareth on the schedule, and they're looking for a later date in May, possibly the last race before the Indianapolis 500.
That's true, and certainly it's a funky track. There's also some talk perhaps of changing the track a little bit. We've seen how difficult it is to overtake around here this afternoon. They're talking about maybe shaving some tarmac, widening the track effectively in turn one, just bringing the apex of the corner in maybe 15-20 feet to open up that corner, make it a faster turn, and maybe that'll make the cars go quicker up the hill into turn two. And be able to make a passing move there. We're just coming up now past start finish line here on the left hand side of the track. That's the apex I'm talking about. Move that back a little bit and quicken up this part of the track, and maybe make this here an overtaking opportunity.
And there you saw by the reaction, there's a little bit of a bump right back in that turn two there too, and they'd like to address that, they say, because it gives them a bit of a shock to, they call it the kink section. And then down into turn three, up to 190 miles an hour they approach turn three. Slow it down a little bit to get through there, but then through 3 and 4, top speeds are very quick and very busy here at Nazareth. As you mentioned, the shifting of the gear, also a bit of braking here and there, and no real long straightaway to check everything and look down and check all your readings.
That's true. It is a really busy place here. There is Gilles de Ferran. We hear that he did stall the engine during the pit stop. That is why he dropped to the back of the pack, and he's going to have a hard time making up for that mistake. Just one mistake here, as we've seen already with Michel Jourdain and now Gilles de Ferran, can cost you dearly. A lot of track position, and track position on this racetrack is absolutely crucial.
Also understand that some trash out on the track, and Bruno Junqueira's car sucked it up into the radiator there. That may be affecting him in a little bit. Kenny Brack coming up on more traffic. Brian Herter, who had the problems right at the beginning of the race, more problems for him as the leader goes by again.
Yeah, and Kenny Brack is really turning a pretty good pace there. He's lapping 22.7, so still not even as quick as the Atlantic cars were going along today. I'm absolutely amazed at that. I mean, these cars have, the Atlantic car has about 225 horsepower maybe. These guys have 850 horsepower under their right foot. But of course, it's a much heavier car, particularly with a full load of fuel, and with all the turbulence of these cars as well, it makes them pretty tricky to drive on a tight little bull ring of an oval such as Nazareth Speedway.
And the other thing, of course, is the constant traffic, though, Jeremy. 25 cars out there. The Atlantics, I think we only had 13 this weekend, didn't we?
Yeah, only 13 starters. No, this time there is Alex Zanardi. I think he's leaving room there for Kenny Brack, and Kenny Brack does have a lot easier chance there of getting past Alex Zanardi.
Riding on board with Scott Dixon, the youngest driver in the field. Again, Mauricio Guzman not here this weekend, so he carries the Nextel sponsorship here at Nazareth for the 225. Jeremy, in about 10 more laps or so, we'll be able to give the bonus point to Kenny Brack for leading the most laps, because that'll be our halfway mark. 105 laps are in the book. There's Dario Franchitti struggling in 8th. Well, coming up on Jimmy Vasser. That is fourth position. Yeah, big train of cars there. The first car, Kenny Brack, he's got a goodly lead of nearly 3 seconds over Oriol Servio and Cristiano Domana together. Fernandez just a little way back from there. Then a big gap back to Helio Castroneves in 5th place, and a huge train of cars behind Helio Castroneves, comprising Tony Kanaan and Jimmy Vasser, Dario Franchitti, Michael Andretti, Paul Tracy, Bruno Junqueira, Roberto Moreno, and Scott Dixon, Shinji Nakano, Toro Takagi, and Christian Fittipaldi also there in that pack as well. It's a really tight bunch of cars, and we saw Dixon trying to make a move there. He wasn't able to make that pass that time, but he will no doubt try again. Looking back at Manassian's car, Cristiano Domana coming up. He goes down the inside, and then from on top of Minassian's car. Cristiano de Mata, of course, our points leader. He had the win in Monterrey, Mexico. Also a very strong finish at Long Beach. Couldn't quite get by Helio Castro-Neves, tried a number of times, so wound up second. And Nicolas Minassian, the Frenchman, riding on board with him, the rookie, first time racing with a pack of cars on an oval. He says he enjoys the ovals. And of course his team, Chip Ganassi's team, they tested him last year here, and they came back again earlier this year, did all their oval testing here at Nazareth. Of course, Nicolas Minassian and Bruno Junqueira both have been slated to run the Indianapolis 500. However, there's going to be a press conference tomorrow at Indianapolis Motor Speedway where Chip Ganassi is going to announce exactly who his drivers are, and there's all sorts of stories going around, Jeremy. We know it won't be Brian Herter.
No, I don't think it will be Brian Herter. I think it might be possibly Jimmy Vasser, and possibly the other name that's been thrown around a lot is Tony Stewart, who won last night's NASCAR Winston Cup event at Richmond International Raceway.
Tony Stewart and Chip this morning said that was a great win by Tony, was his comment. So obviously looking at Tony Stewart, there is some dispute whether Tony could do it, though, because he runs the 600 the same night in Charlotte, and the start time for that race has been moved forward half an hour by the request of the TV. It's going to be a very tough day. Kenny Brack, who of course has won the Indianapolis 500, leading here. Race for the IRL, now racing in the Kart FedEx Championship Series.
There is Brian Herter's car being pulled out back into position. He's got some major problems there for the Zaxby's Forsyth team. He's certainly not going to be a factor. So looking underneath the back of the car, firing up that engine again. They can't get it fired up with the external starter. So finally, good old manpower comes to the rescue. Push start, and off he goes.
It's actually all been horribly pear-shaped for Brian Herter since the green flag dropped.
It certainly has, hasn't it? Right from the moment the flag dropped, he goes spinning off, and there's another spinner here, I think, in turn 4.
Takagi, I believe, and he's pulled it down onto the pit lane. There is a service road that runs the entire length of this track, which Roger Penske's idea to put in. Actually, Rick Mears' idea to put it in, and that was in case there is a big wreck out on the track, they can still do laps around behind the pace car on this service road, and that's what Toru Takagi is on right now, after having a little bit of a slip up on turn 4.
Gives us a breather, I think we needed that.
So Kenny Brack leads, Servia second, Cristiano de Mata in third, Adrian Fernandez having a good run with fourth, Helio Castro-Neves in fifth, Tony Kanaan in sixth. Here's a replay, and again, no contact. Did a nice...
Same place again, isn't it? We've seen a bunch of people go off there. We've seen Max Papis do it twice yesterday. We've seen Michel Jourdain Jr. do it this morning, or this afternoon I should say, and now Toru Takagi as well. Takagi was running in 15th place, make that now 19th place.
And one more lap, and Kenny Brack will be able to get the point for leading the most laps.
And I think they're looking at making another pit stop here. I think interesting strategy now. Do you make a pit stop? I think if the leader comes in, everybody else will come in, because if you risk staying out there and have to make a green flag pit stop, that'll kill your chance of winning a race. Because on this track, you lose more than one lap, well, actually 2 laps probably, making a green flag pit stop because of the long pit lane and just the fact that it's only 22 seconds around here. So the leader comes in, everybody else will come in as well. At least, obviously, the car's on the lead lap.
Now, Jeremy, in this case, Bobby Rahal not here this weekend. He would normally be on the radio calling the shots to Kenny. So where's he getting his advice from this weekend?
I think Scott Remke is probably calling the race for Kenny. He generally does this season. He is the general manager. He's actually now president now of Team Rahal. I'm not quite sure what he's been the general manager. He's really run the team on a day-to-day basis for several years on behalf of Bobby Rahal and David Letterman.
Some speculation as to who will come in. Paul Tracy had a terrible pit stop the first time round. It looks like he's coming in. Oriol Servia, who's running up front, his crew is right in front of us, and they're not ready for him, and he hasn't come in. On board with Bruno. He'll wait now. Don't forget, last time he overran the slot. This time it looks like he hit the marks.
It's a pretty big gamble for these guys coming in the pits, because if there isn't another caution in the next 30 laps or so, then they have absolutely no chance of winning the race. But if there is, then they will be in good stead. So it's just a major gamble by these guys. Jimmy Vasser, Scott Dixon, Paul Tracy come out of the pits in that order, followed by Christian Fittipaldi and Alex Tagliani. Those two side by side, Junqueira, Jourdain, and also Gilles de Ferran. So those guys taking the gamble, the other guys not.
Interesting. I think, though, Paul Tracy's case, though, It was a case, I think he had a set of tyres he wasn't very happy with, so he came in to put new tyres on. We are running the car FedEx 225 at Nazareth. The running order remains the same. Brack up front, Servier, second D'Amata in third, because none of those front runners stopped. Just to report that Alex Zanardi has rejoined. He was having problems in the pit a few moments ago. He's also had a pretty bad day generally. Adrian Fernandez is having a good weekend this weekend, and he is in fourth position. Yellow flags are out again. Oh, we got one of the Penskes and Alex Tagliani involved.
Probably deferring. Those two were together at the back of the field. They were dicing over 17th place, and they have collided in turns 3 and 4. So that is the end of those two guys' day, and certainly not a good weekend for Gilles Deferrin. He's been outpaced quite markedly by Elliot Castaneves all weekend. Talk to me. Says the engineer. They want to make sure the driver's okay. To see Simple Green safety team right there, all ready to get those drivers out of the cars and make sure they're all right. And we'll meantime have a look through the tapes here and see if we can find a replay to find out exactly what happened. It was right at the back of the pack, though, guys.
And both of these guys did make a pit stop, so they're on cold tyres.
Yeah, they are, and I don't know what Gilles was playing at there. He sort of dived down the inside, a pretty half-hearted attempt there. Wasn't even close to making a move on Alex Tagliani. Surprising move there by Gilles Deferrin. He generally plays the percentage moves. He's a pretty smart man, and that wasn't a smart move. He wasn't even close to diving down the inside. Sure, yeah, Tagliani did cut him off a little bit, but Deferrin was nowhere near close enough to make that move. And I'd be surprised if Gilles doesn't go over to Tagliani and say, hey, sorry about that. I think that was more my mistake than yours.
I mentioned they had the cold tyres, but of course that didn't really play a factor in here. But it did play a factor in Tagliani's qualifying yesterday, because he couldn't get any heat in the tyres because the pressures were too low, and that's what affected his qualifying. Now they're working on getting Alex out of the car. Interesting this weekend, of course, is the mandatory hands device, or mandatory wearing of the hands device. So all these drivers wearing them. Here's a replay one more time. Gilles down the inside.
Yeah, and I don't know what he was trying to do there. It's a surprising move. I guess he was just so committed to making a move down the inside, and I guess he was just hoping that Alex Tagliani would leave him room. We saw a couple of moves earlier on where drivers on the outside line, with Roberto Moreno, I think it was, who left room for Scott Dixon there, and certainly you could certainly argue that Alex Tagliani should have seen Gilles coming down the inside, realised he wasn't going to be able to make a pass, but still give him enough room so that they would both be able to make it through the corner. I think that would be a legitimate thing. We're looking now from on board Bruno Junqueira, as all he sees is a big puff of smoke and two cars exiting stage right, and he dives through the gap on the inside and says, thank you very much, I got through that one.
Bruno hanging in. Of course, he started from pole position here today. Gilles is obviously fine, but they seem to be taking a little bit of time in taking Alex out of the car. Obviously hope he's okay. It didn't look like a huge hit because they were still just getting going.
You can just see the that sort of collar that they wear around the neck. That part of that hands device. It's a carbon fibre yoke collar, effectively, that goes over their shoulders and is held in place by the seat belts in the racing car, and then the helmet is strapped to that carbon fibre restraint to make sure the neck does not hyperextend in the event of a major accident.
Give Tony Kanaan the lead at this point, because everything's just shuffled around, because while we were away, some of the leaders did suddenly decide to come in. Kenny Brack led them in, and quite a few guys came in, including Kenny, but Kenny actually had a great race with Oriol Servia to get back out, and did beat him out. Nicholas Minassian has come in and had a longer stop than expected, a little problem for him, but he is now rejoining. Nicholas Minassian running down in the 19th position, one lap down on the leaders. Working on Alex Tagliani still. So the yellow flag brought out by Gilles Deferrin and Alex Tagliani in turn 3. Here it is again. Just across the right front wing of Gilles. That upsets the car, and obviously Gilles into the wall. He is out of the car and fine. Alex Tagliani also into the wall, and they're working on getting him out of the car. It seems to be taking a bit longer than we would have thought, but yes, obviously a harder hit than we thought.
Yeah, Tagliani hit that wall pretty square on backwards there. Gilles Deferrin was more of a glancing blow, and Tagliani there very heavily in backwards there, and even though they were running towards the back of the pack, that was a very, very heavy impact.
And while that yellow went on, here you see Kenny Brack, and they all came in.
Little tweak to the front wing there, a little bit of an adjustment for the race leader as the fuel goes in.
No tyre change though either, fairly important note there.
It's true. Ricky Nolt and the crew there, a great stop by them, and they get him out just ahead of Oriol Serbia. Oriol Serbia, he is in the prime pit, right at pit out. He's the last pit, and you turn left coming straight out of that pit, so he doesn't need to turn right at all. He can just power straight on out. But he wasn't able to break out of the pits, and the pits, here we see Adrian Fernandez too, also making his pit stop. He was in need of service there as Dan Miller and the crew go to work there on the Takati Quaker State Telmex car. It's a Honda-powered Reynard, and again, another slight adjustment there. You see Dan Miller just adjusting those front wings there, a few tweaks there to both sides, a little bit more downforce, I would suggest, on the front end of that car. I think it was probably pushing a little bit, and he has to have just managed to avoid Helio Castroneves, who is just ahead of him, and good stop by Castroneves, because before that round of pit stops, Castroneves was behind Adrian Fernandez, so good stop by Marlboro Team Penske.
Some of the others that came in along with Prix, Serbia, was Cristiano de Mata, Helio Castroneves, Adrian Fernandez, Michael Andretti came in, made his stop, Roberto Moreno made his, and I believe Toro Takagi made his stop. So 128 laps, and now Tony Kanaan is our leader, Dario Franchitti in second, Shinji Nakano runs in third, Paul Tracy in fourth, Scott Dixon, the highest placed rookie, is in fifth, Jimmy Vasser in sixth, Christian Fittipaldi seventh, Michel Jourdain Jr. from his third starting position runs in eighth, Bruno Giugiaro, the rookie that started from the pole, now in ninth, Kenny Brack, the Swede, who led all this way so far, in 10th, then it's Serbia, Cristiano de Mata, Castroneves, Fernandez, Andretti, Moreno, Takagi, and then Max Wilson, who qualified, well, I guess if you count Manassian's qualifying, Max Wilson started basically last.
Yeah, because he selected the wrong gear. Going down towards turn 3, he meant to get 6th gear, and he moved his hand the wrong way. He's not used to sequential shifting, apparently, and they got the 4th gear instead of 6th. Big oops there, and both he and Takagi actually is a lap down now. 17th and 18th are a lap down, so major shuffling of the order there as we see those different strategies unfold, and those that gamble earlier on by these guys coming into pit, make a pit stop under the previous caution flag, and there's a long way to go in this race, so it's going to be quite interesting to see how those pan out. But you know, track position is very, very, very important. We've got 130 laps in the books. Everybody else, for sure now, is still going to have to make one more pit stop to reach the finish of this race. And who is in the catbird seat? Well, that's Tony Kanaan at the front of the field. The bad news is, I think Tony has he's only made one pit stop, so he is in need of another stop relatively soon, as is Dario Franchitti and I think Shinji Nakano. I think those are the only three who have made only one pit stop so far. Certainly we've seen Paul Tracy in a couple of times, so it's going to be they're going to need another caution in about 20 laps time if they're going to stand any chance of being up towards the front in this race.
And the guys that have come in this time round on lap 128 will need to at least get some more gas before they will be able to complete this race. Again, the cleanup continues in turn 3. The sweeper, you mentioned earlier, Jeremy, one of the corner workers, or one of the simple green safety guys, got caught up in that brush in the Toyota Atlantic race.
Yeah, that's true. There's a bit of a big wreck up in turn 2 there. Nobody injured, at least of the drivers, but I gather one of the safety workers was in the wrong place at the wrong time when the sweeper went past, and gave him a bit of a wallop. I think he's okay, but they did cart him off. It knocked him over, and they took him away, and we haven't heard how he is. Hopefully he will be well and back in action. And certainly the safety team here for CART is an absolutely magnificent organisation. They do a great job in looking after the safety of these teams and drivers.
There you see the laps that the drivers made their last pit stop on.
Right, they just, sorry guys, it's just that top 3 that have only made that one pit stop on lap 76. So they're going to have to come in within the next...
pretty close.
Yeah, 30, they can probably go another, with these long cautions, they can probably do another 30 or 40 laps. And if they then get a caution around about lap 160 or 170, they will be bringing up a big sigh of relief. The good news, of course, is they will be able to make a pit stop when they need it under yellow, so they won't lose too much time. The bad news is they will need to take on almost a full tank of fuel, whereas these other guys will only need to take a partial load in order to reach the finish of the race. So the other guys will have a quicker pit stop, but still this track position is very, very important, and this that strategy has appeared so far at least to be working out in their favour. It was just a complete gamble as to whether or not there was going to be yellows at the right time.
You saw the field summary there. Kanaan continues to... Actually, he's not the first car behind the pace car. That's Alex Zanardi, and they'll sort that out in a minute. Adrian Fernandez, as he makes his way around the service lane here on the inside of Nazareth Speedway in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Hosted this race 14 times. Michael Andretti's won it twice. Paul Tracy's won it twice. We have 4 winners that have won here, but racing again today. Danny Sullivan's won here. Some other big names that have won here. Emerson Fittipaldi, of course, love this track. He won here 3 times. Bobby Rahal and Ari Leyendijk also had scored wins here. And, of course, Nigel Mansell.
Norwich, yes, so you had a great win here in his championship season, 1993. And this is Andretti country, of course. Both Michael and Mario have pretty substantial residences here. And just up on the hill, you can actually see the track from their houses, and just on the other side of town. But there you go, they are part of the fabric here at Nazareth Speedway. The family there, and Mario's parents moved here right after the war, and the family stayed and stuck, and they love it up here.
Now, were you at Michael or Mario's house last night?
Mario's, actually. It was rather nice. He's built himself a fairly new house recently. Where he used to live was actually called Victory Lane here in Nazareth Speedway. That was it was dedicated as such after his Indianapolis win in 1969.
Now he's retired. Is it called Pit Lane?
Yeah. Rose Hill Avenue now, and very nice residence there. And Mario was kind enough to invite some people around last night. A whole bunch of people there. Great fun and very nice. A lot of the drivers were there, a lot of the card officials, and just a fun time. We were able to sample some of Mario's own wines. Of course, he has his own winery in California, a vineyard to our European friends. Very nice, thank you very much indeed.
Any truth to the rumour there, Jeremy, that if you step out the French doors at the back of the garden, there's actually a tee box there, and you can play to, I think, 8 or 9 different greens?
Yeah, that's Michael's house, just up the street a little bit. Yeah, he built himself a little mini golf course up there. He plays around. His place is absolutely amazing. His is very futuristic. Mario's is a lot more traditional and very, very tasteful, beautiful place.
Michael's is full of toys as well.
Yes. All sorts of gizmos there, and it's an incredible place. It's not really in the character of Nazareth, Pennsylvania, but they love it around here, and they are a big part of this community. They play an active role in all sorts of community affairs here, and everybody loves the Andrettis.
There you see, Michael has, as of the start today, matched Al Unser Jr. for the most starts in kart at 273. Both of those passing Bobby Rahal, who retired a couple of years ago.
Safety 4 car. Can you tell us about how drivers are doing?
Yeah, Gary, both drivers are okay. Gilles getting some ice, so he won't be stiff and sore because he plans to practice at Indianapolis later today, and we're doing the same thing for Alex, but both of them got away with it and are doing fine.
Hans device, how much in your mind does it help in situations like this?
Well, there's no question it helps. Neither driver had any complaints in the neck or head area, and I think that's kind of a testament to the Hans device.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks.
That's Dr. Steve Olvey, the kart medical director, of course, who we saw so much of him last week in Texas, explaining all about the G-force loads, and he's the one who actually discovered that the guys were having problems. They saw Brian Herter climbing out of his car. He's been in the pits off and on all day, and now obviously decided to call it a day.
Yeah, and certainly good news from Dr. Steve Olvey there that Tagliani, we saw DeFerro was okay. There was certainly some concern about Tagliani, but good to hear that no serious injury there. We'll get down to the pit lane and perhaps have a word with Brian Herter, who's clambered out of that Zach Speed Forsyth entry.
Yes, Brian, I know this day didn't get started the way you wanted. First of all, what happened on the start?
I'm not really sure, Jan. I mean, it was tight down there going in the first corner, and a couple of guys checked up on the brakes, and I checked up, and I'm not sure if just checking up got me loose or if I actually got in contact with one or two of the guys around me, but the car just swapped ends, and we got some damage on the front end of the car from the front wing, and we were trying to soldier around, and then the clutch broke. We made a couple of stops with the clutch broken and started making some noises out there under yellow, and we were already 3 laps down. We weren't sure what was going to happen, so I'm so disappointed, especially for these guys, but we had a good car, and all we can do is go to Japan now and try and get them there.
All right, we'll see you there.
Thanks.
Brian's dad is here this weekend. I was talking to him yesterday, and he said, I haven't seen you in a while. I said, well, I haven't seen you in a while. He said, well, I took 2 years off. I haven't been coming to the races. I said, well, that will probably explain it.
Yeah, that would explain it. Yeah, Tom Herter, he's a huge supporter, of course, of his son, and he's a big enthusiast for this sport as well. Good to see him running around.
There you get a look at Paul Tracy, Dario Franchini's teammate. They were in a heated discussion, the two of them, this morning with Parker Johnson. Of course, Parker raced for that team as a single car entry, but I think maybe it was more of it looked serious, but I think it was more of just a general chit-chat going on. Mentioned Dario, his best finish here at Nazareth is a third. Paul's best finish here.
He's won here before. He's had
2 wins.
Yeah, that's right. He's had a couple of poles in 96 and 97. He won here in 94 and 97 as well. And as you said earlier on, he's probably got more miles around this racetrack than absolutely anybody from his days with Marlboro Team Penske. As we said, they're based just 50 miles away in Reading, Pennsylvania, and they used to do in the old days an awful lot of testing here at Nazareth.
Roger Penske had a press conference because Roger is the Grand Marshal of the race this weekend. And he had a big press conference yesterday, and he mentioned how they came testing here once, and Paul, instead of wearing a race suit, was wearing like a snowsuit in the car. And they said we knew it was time to stop testing when Paul's feet got to the freezing point, and he couldn't feel anything, and they were so numb, it was so cold here. And they actually had to sweep the snow off the track to allow Paul to go out and test.
Yeah, that's right. That's Nazareth for you. As we saw what could happen last year when exactly that took place. It was Saturday was fairly nice. Sunday, blanket of snow everywhere. Well, today is certainly different to what it was yesterday and different again to Friday, but the conditions now absolutely perfect. Hardly any wind at all, just a little bit of a breath, and very comfortable temperatures and just right for racing. There's Shinji Nakano, and running an excellent third place. He, of course, along with Tony Kanaan and Dario Franchitti, only made 1 pit stop so far as we get ready to go back to green.
And it looks like Dario is coming in this time. Yeah, there he is on pit lane. Dario Franchitti currently running in second spot, only made 1 pit stop. Well, now makes his stop.
That's a pretty shrewd move, I reckon, by Team Cool Green. They know he needs a pit stop within the next 20 or 30 laps. If he didn't come under yellow, then he would be completely out of contention. Now, he'll go to the back of the pack, but he can probably reach the finish now without making another pit stop. Brilliant strategy, I think, from Team Cool Green.
About 80 laps to go. He may just be able to stretch it out. Interesting strategy by the Team Cool Green with 141 laps complete, 225 scheduled. Can Dario Franchitti stretch it out? A couple more yellows will certainly help him. It didn't look like a long pit stop where they really stayed to make sure they get all the fuel in there, Jeremy.
No, but I'm got to presume they did. I think they can make a pit stop now. They haven't been waved past the pace car, so I don't think there's any problem there with the rules. Check that, but I can't find the rule book, but I think certainly was a great move, because he doesn't now. I think he will be able to make the finish of this race, particularly if there's another caution or so, and he'll be looking in very, very, very good shape. So Dario Franchitti, he'll now have to start at the back of the pack, which will be frustrating for him because he won't be able to make much progress. But if he is now patient, that could work out in his favour.
All right, we are getting ready to go green. We've seen Kenny Brack do some great restarts and get a jump on the field. Tony Kanaan's turn this time as they work their way down the back straight. He's got to wait for that pace car to get out of his way because they quickly catch up to it. Now he starts to add on some gas in 3. Coming out of 4. Takes the green flag, but didn't get a great jump over Shinji Nakano.
Shinji Nakano's a pretty smart cookie as well. He's certainly got a lot of confidence over his last couple of weekends. Last week at Texas Speedway qualified an excellent 5th as the best of the Reynard Honda runners. So that really boosted his confidence. He didn't have any confidence at all last year on the ovals, but working with Adrian Fernandez and that team this year, he's really boosted his own self-esteem, if you like, enormously, and running superbly now in second place, and he's holding on to the back end of Tony Kanaan, a similar Reynard Honda. Reynard Honda's actually running 1, 2, 3, Tony Kanaan, Shinji Nakano and Paul Tracy.
There you see Christian Fittipaldi just ahead of Kenny Brack. Christian reportedly having some problems, but the telemetry says the engine's just fine. Kenny is trying to work on him. That is in 6th and 7th position. Tony Kanaan up front, Shinji Nakano right behind him, and Paul Tracy running in 3rd. And as you mentioned, Jeremy, Paul Tracy, so many miles around this track, certainly knows what he's doing.
Yes, he does, and there's some jockeying for position there. We see Michel Jourdain Jr. there protecting that position at his 8th place with Bruno Junqueira, the pole sitter, behind him in 9th.
Riding on board with Bruno Junqueira, looking up at Michel Jourdain. Ooh, close up a big time there and through 2. Again, you can hear how he applies the throttle, adding that gas nice and smoothly. off the gas a little bit through 3 and then back on it here in 4. This is where we've been having troubles with people getting back on the power. The back end's been coming around on it.
Yeah, they have. These cars have very little downforce now, both on the front and the rear. They're using the Hanford device Mark II, and that gives very little downforce at the back end of the car to compensate at the front.
Put it on the pit board, Rob.
They're running super speedway wings as well down there, so very little downforce compared to what these cars used to run on this track. And we're on board still with Bruno Junqueira. Meanwhile, at the front of the pack, the two, Tony Kanaan and Shinji Nakano, just inching away a little bit from Paul Tracy in 3rd place.
4th place driver, Scott Dixon, the rookie, the highest place rookie. And again, the only car for Pac West this weekend. Interesting that Bruce McCaw has stepped off the board of directors for the kart series. A lot of rumours and talk about what's going on and why he's stepped down. Obviously continuing to race. Scott doing a great job. I believe Scott sat on the pole here in the lights, but I think he finished 2nd twice in the Indy Lights series.
Saw Shinji Nakano there make a move down the end of the back straight, trying to get a move on Tony Kanaan. He wasn't able to make it stick, but that has enabled Paul Tracy to move in again in 3rd place. So Shinji Nakano getting very racy as Paul Tracy there runs a little bit wide. I think it wasn't actually Tracy running wide, but Shinji Nakano protecting his inside lines. They came down the hill now. Is Paul Tracy going to try and make a move though on Shinji Nakano? Look at Nakano there, gets on the power very well out of turn 3, able to jump up again now onto the tail of the race leader Tony Kanaan.
Oh, look at that. A little bit of a block move there from Kanaan. Shinji moved down. We may hear from Chris Neifel in a minute on this one.
Yeah, the knife man, as he calls himself now on the radio, Chris Neifel. He's trying to inject a little bit of levity in here. It's a serious business, but also you can have some fun as well. And he said when they went to the first race, they asked the card official, said, well, what do you want to be called on the radio? Do you want to be Unit 1? I think was one of the options given to Chris, and he said, what? No, I'm not a Unit 1. You can call me whatever you like. Let's try and come up with a name. And various things were thrown around, and Knife Man has stuck. And I gather Chris was telling me last night that a few people were somewhat reticent to call him the chief steward, Knife Man on the radio, but now it's becoming more commonplace, and that is what he is known as now, pretty much universally by the drivers and the car officials as well. He's a really good character, great perspective on life, Chris Neifel. He's driven these cars in the past, got a lot of racing under his belt, and now he's loving this job.
But it's incredibly ironic that Chris Neifel will become a chief steward, because he gave more chief stewards more problems than anybody else out there, pretty much.
He's not the sort of guy you argue with. He's about 6'6" or 6'7" is Chris, a former basketball player. He's from Chicago originally, lives now in the Phoenix area, but a big basketball fan. The Chicago Bulls was certainly a passion of his, and he's a big lad. He's not a guy you argue with.
Of course, if any folk have been to the Mid-Ohio Racing School, Chris was also the chief instructor there for a long time. Kanaan has managed to hold off Shinji Nakano, who had a bit of a challenge there. Paul Tracy in 3rd. Paul's got 5 oval victories, 7 oval poles. 2 of those 5 victories came here. In fact, he's had 155 career starts, and he's been on the podium in 50%.
That's a pretty good record. It's, 50% what?
Of his Nazareth starts.
Oh, Nazareth starts, yeah, right. He's made...
I saw you going through the numbers there.
Yeah, even so, 42 podiums he's had in all, 18 wins, 12 seconds and 12 thirds. That's a pretty impressive number, and certainly 79 top 10 finishes, so what's that, little better than 50% average in terms of top 10s in relation to his overall number of starts in the Champ Car Series.
Tony Kanaan continues to lead Nakano and Tracy. Scott Dixon continues in 4th, then Vassar, Fittipaldi, Kenny Brack, Michel Jourdain, Bruno Junqueira, Oriol Servia round out the top 10. Just to update you, in case you're joining us late race, some guys that are out. Max Wilson, the rookie, is running, but he's down a lap. Alex Zanardi is running in 20th, but he's down 3 laps. And then Brian Herter is just officially retired a few laps ago. Alex Tagliani in a crash with Gilles de Ferran in turn 3. Max Papis with a gearbox, or not a gearbox, but a gear cable problem. And Patrick Carpentier went out very early on, in fact, on lap 28. Welcome back to live coverage of the kart FedEx Championship Series, round number 3 from the Nazareth Speedway, the Nazareth 225. What happened, obviously under instruction from the crew chief, the drivers decided to do all their overtaking while we were in break. Kenny Brack has picked up 2 positions. He got by Christian Fittipaldi on 1 lap, and then by Jimmy Vasser, and now he's threatening on Paul Tracy, and Paul Tracy lost a position to Scott Dixon on the last lap.
Yeah, some great moves there. Most of them in turn 1, right in front of us here, and there's some really exciting action.
Back at Nazareth International Speedway, here is that pass that Kenny Brack put on Christian Fittipaldi. A little bit of confusion right before it happened, and then he quickly caught up to Jimmy Vasser and was able to go by Jimmy Vasser down the inside, picked up 2 positions. So Kenny Brack on fire. He caught up right behind Scott Dixon, but Scott Dixon did something about it and went by Paul Tracy, and now Shinji Nakano right up behind Tony Kanaan, and the top 6 cars are now really close together. No gap at all.
No, you're right. In fact, the top 10 or 12 are absolutely pretty much nose to tail. There's just less than a second covering the top 5. You can see them all there, and the train on back there through. There is Kenny Brack now. He's running in 4th place. He is the man on the move, having got past Paul Tracy, as you say, and he is absolutely charging now. Of course, he doesn't have any fuel concerns. Tony Kanaan is trying to stretch that fuel load. He and Shinji Nakano, they need a yellow. They need a yellow. They've got to make a pit stop pretty soon. If they don't get it under yellow, they are going to be completely out of contention in this race. So the battle now is the guy in the catbird seat at this stage, in fact, is Scott Dixon in 3rd place, if you can believe it, a rookie driver, and behind him is Kenny Brack. He's been the quickest man all weekend. He is the man to watch. He's made some moves in these last few laps. There is Kenny Brack, the Swede, and the man in front of him is really the guy, his closest opposition in this race, assuming there isn't another caution in the next few laps.
And just to update you, we talked about Dario Franchitti. He made that pit stop, and we talked about the strategy that he could go the rest of the way, but the problem was he was going to go to the back of the line of traffic. Well, unfortunately for Dario, he hasn't been able to do much. He's got by 2 of the cars back there, but he is still at the back of that line. But we'll keep an eye on his progress as he tries to work his way up the field. If you have it, now would be the time to put Mark Knopfler's CD in Sailing to Philadelphia and play the tune Speedway at Nazareth, because it's a great tune, and we're seeing a great battle up front here for this race. And we'll point out that Mark Knopfler was here this weekend, here on Friday, and then he helicoptered to Philadelphia, where he's starting his tour of North America.
Yeah, big race fan is Mark Knopfler, and
you see the graphic there is coming from the Kanaan crew. They reckon they got about 5 laps left in that tank.
Yeah, so he's desperately hoping
for all traffic through Zanardi.
If Zanardi should have the misfortune to spin now, of course, that'd be rather. He's completely out of contention. One hopes, of course, he wouldn't spin to bring out the yellow flag. That would be horrible, of course, wouldn't it?
Oh, you mean for Tony?
Yes.
Oh, terrible.
I don't think Alex will be up for any skullduggery like that. With this race, will just play out as it will. And there is Kenny Brack there. But what a great drive by Kenny Brack. He's been on fire all weekend. Not literally, I'm glad to say, but figuratively certainly. Absolutely brilliant performance. He's led the first over half of the race in dominant style.
You mentioned Zanardi, of course. Mo Nunn running that team for Tony Kanaan and Alex Zanardi. Mo has moved from Palm Coast, Florida, back up to Indianapolis to really try and get the team gelled together again and get them working hard and progress. And Tony is here this weekend, said he thinks the team is really coming on strong now, and they're so much happier with the power they have this year. Here is Kenny Brack and Tracy. This is a replay of what happened earlier. Very, very close. On Friday, Kenny Brack and teammate Max Papis got very close in turn 4, and Kenny had to go down low to stop any kind of touching. Max Papis was asked about the incident and said, what were you thinking? He said, well, at one point I'm thinking Bobby's going to have to buy 2 new cars in him if Kenny doesn't move. Luckily Kenny did. Bobby doesn't have to buy 2 new cars.
Yeah, I think Bobby will be, if he's watching in Europe, he'll be glad to know that. And certainly he's not having much luck with Max Papis at all this season, but Kenny Brack is doing a magnificent job in that shell car. It's a Ford Cosworth powered Lola, Firestone tyres, of course, all the cars running on Firestones, and Kenny Brack really is doing a magnificent job. We're on board now with Scott Dixon, and here's another young man doing an absolutely fantastic job as well. Great strategy by Pat West so far. He's running in a magnificent 3rd place. We saw strategy worked for and against him in Monterey, the first race. He led for a bunch of the laps up there, with 18 laps I think it was in that season opener. Didn't work out for him then. He fell back in the pack and finished just out of the points. But this young man, he really deserves to be in this series. He's a real star.
But watch out, hiding behind that left rear of Scott Dixon is a yellow and white Kenny Brack. Getting closer. Kenny obviously settling nicely with the Lolas. They switched to Lolas this year from the Reynard, and Max explaining he's having a harder time setting up the Lola because you don't set it up the same way as you would a Reynard. You sort of change other bits, and he's having a hard time getting used to that. Kenny obviously got it figured out, and that forward power seems to be the thing to have on the ovals. Shinji Nakano is trying to come into the pits, and their team are trying to tell him, and they keep telling him to put it out on the board to bring him in.
It's awfully difficult to see a pit board at this place. You're so busy out there. You're just concentrating on saving your life, really. Just following the guy in front of you. Absolutely no time to relax, even to look at the gauges, let alone look at the pit board.
And plus the pit wall, the inner pit wall, is actually quite away from the track.
So you can see his crew manager running down here, trying to get down the inside of turn one. I don't think even then that Shinji is going to see it. And you can just hope that I'm sure they're yelling like mad over the radio, but clearly Shinji, they can't hear. Maybe the radio is malfunctioning. I don't know. There is Tom Anderson. That's the team owner there, Tom Anderson, team co-owner with Adrian Fernandez. And now Shinji doesn't hear the call. Thought he was moving to the inside to make a move to the pit lane, but he doesn't come in the next couple of laps. It's going to be too late.
Doing a great job racing for the Adrian Fernandez team, and had a long chat with Adrian this weekend, and Adrian just basically sat him down and said you just have to learn how to be patient on an oval like this. He's been patient, but he's been too patient about coming in. Here he is, Shinji Nakano, there we go, finally got through to him, and he's pulled it into the pit. Of course, a green flag pit stop here. Going to be very, very expensive, but the option wasn't much better. So, of course, that puts Kenny Brack up one more spot there. And Scott Dixon, of course, one more spot. Scott Dixon, the rookie, don't forget, he led some laps in Monterey. First time a rookie has led a race, their first race, since Nigel Mansell. Tom Anderson, the half owner and crew chief.
Team manager there, team manager. Fernandez Racing, as you say, yes, Guy, and there he is.
He was the team manager, Carl Hogan, formerly 5,000 days back in the 70s. And, of course, Tom has gone on to pick up 4 Kart FedEx Championship Series.
Yeah, with to target Chip Ganassi Racing. His first job in racing actually was with McLaren Cars, the Can-Am, glorious days of the Can-Am, working back in the end of the 1960s. So a lot of experience, Tom Anderson, one of the most highly respected men in pit lane.
Kenny Brack, we mentioned, they got that point for leading the most laps earlier, and they did give him the point from Texas for qualifying on the pole position. So now he should be up to, I believe, 13 points, and crucial, we talked about it earlier, and Christian Fittipaldi talked about it, crucial to get points in these next oval races. So when we hit the street courses and road courses with the new qualifying system where it's divided into 2 groups decided by points, you've got to be high up in the points to get in the right group. Of course, to the ovals, it's single file qualifying. Again, it's done in order of point standings, but the track doesn't tend to change quite so much as it does on a street or a permanent road course such as a Road America, Mid-Ohio.
It's true, we've got 19 cars still running in this race, and all of them within 1 lap of the lead. There's 4 cars 1 lap down, and one of those, of course, is Shinji Nakano, who fell from 2nd place down to 18th. So unless there's something very strange happens, well, there's Adrian Fernandez into the pits.
That's his teammate. Now, did he run out of fuel? Didn't seem that long ago that Adrian was in the pit.
No, it doesn't. So not quite sure there. He's certainly coming in pretty slowly there. And he is not up to full speed, and clearly some sort of a problem. Maybe he is out of fuel. Maybe they had a problem with the refueling on their last pit stop. I don't know. We'll follow up on that. We're going here on board with Scott Dixon in 2nd place.
187 laps of the 225 are complete. Welcome back to Nazareth, where 193 laps have been completed, and we have a new leader. Scott Dixon, the rookie, takes over the lead because Tony Kanaan looks like he was running out of fuel, and he had to slow down and get down into the pits. And here you see in back-offs, Dixon goes by, but the interesting thing is when Dixon then drops back, and he goes to go left to drop into pit lane, You'll see here, Kenny's on his left already, but Kenny gets by no problem, luckily, but a bit of drama there for a moment. Tony Kanaan then, who was leading, he got his first win on an oval in Michigan in 1999. It's his only win. He now has dropped off from that lead, and the rookie, Scott Dixon, who led in Monterey, leads again here at Nazareth, but Kenny Brack is certainly very, very strong.
He certainly is. He closed up very quickly. You saw the gap that Dixon pulled away as Kanaan pulled into the pits. Well, Kenny Brack closed that gap down just a few car lengths in next to no time. Kenny Brack is looking very, very, very strong here. They've both got to make one more pit stop before the end of this race, but Dixon has to take on more fuel than Kenny Brack, so he will have a longer pit stop. As long as Kenny Brack can stay very close to Scott Dixon and have a good pit stop, he is looking very, very good for that first kart victory.
It's funny, ever since Bruno took the pole yesterday, all the statistics and all the statisticians started coming out with all these numbers, and we're looking at all these wins that people have, and odd that a lot of the road racers get their first win on an oval. And of course Kenny, a Formula 3000 racer and a road racer before going full-time IRL, and really his background road racing, and he could well get his first win right here on an oval. Gilles Defran is in the pits.
He's already started to disrobe here because he's got another appointment later today at Indianapolis. The important thing, how do you feel, and what can you tell us about that incident with Tagliani?
Well, I feel fine, Gary. Thank you very much. And you know, despite it was quite a heavy accident, but the head protection that really helped me there, so I'm in fantastic shape. As far as the accident goes, I had a run coming off 2 into Tagliani, and I saw an opportunity there. I dove in. And I was, you know, halfway in there. I guess he decided to close the door there, but I couldn't back out of it. I was committed, and then we touched, and see you later.
Now, what's the plan in terms of trying to get to Indianapolis to run before the day is complete, before they hit 6 o'clock there at the Speedway?
Yeah, we just want to get the car shaken down so we get a good start tomorrow. So try to get back tonight as soon as we can.
Travel safely and good wishes.
Thank you.
25 laps remain here at Nazareth. It's going to get very busy for Scott Dixon and Kenny Brack. Now coming up on some traffic, getting out the way though nicely.
Yeah, Minassian there got right out of the way there, did a good job to stay out of the way of the 2 leaders. And Scott Dixon, well, he's running really strong. Pretty sure he's got to make another pit stop, and not. We've got what, 24 laps to go now. We're certainly towards the waning stages in this race, and he's made his last pit stop like 116. You might be able to stretch it to 100 laps. I think anything more than that, you're really struggling. You're asking an awful lot.
We did have a lot of yellow laps in there.
We had a lot of yellow laps in there. Certainly you couldn't do 100 laps of green flag racing, but there was that long caution period. It went from lap 100, pretty much 110, apart from one brief green, all the way through to lap 140. But so he's got sort of, what, 30 laps under yellow. Call that 40 laps he could probably do under yellow, plus it's not inconceivable he might be able to do 80 or 90 laps certainly without any problem. I think he's going to struggle to get to the end of this event. But
with Kenny looking as strong as he is, kind of interesting, of course, running for Bobby Rahal. Bobby Rahal's last win in the kart series, I believe, came right here at Nazareth in 1992.
Yes, he did, and he would be very happy to see Kenny Brack in victory lane, and Kenny Brack there looking closing there as they go up the hill into turn 2 over the crest. There coming downhill now is another slower car in front of him. Look towards Takagi. Quite sure it might have been Max Wilson. Otherwise, he is back in 17th place. Max Wilson, have a good clean run here with the Lola Phoenix, that is Arciero Book Racing. Look at that, Scott Dixon. He's such a talent. Well, yeah, it is Max Wilson in front of those 2 leaders, and you see now Breck beginning to put the pressure once again onto Scott Dixon, and lurking in 3rd place is Paul Tracy.
Now at the beginning, Oriol Servio was running up there with Kenny, and you probably want to have Oriol's not moving up again. Well, Kenny seems to be the only one to be able to do any overtaking here. Servio's still running very strong, but still bogged down back in 8th position. An update on Dario Franchitti. He has now made his way up to 13th. He was running down in 18th. Remember, he's off strategy, and Wilson comes into play, the rookie. No, Dixon goes right by him. And I think Kenny got caught behind him in that turn. And Kenny did. He got caught behind Max Wilson on that turn, but now gets by him. And now gets by the Junqueira car too, so he'll now try and catch up with Scott Dixon again.
It must be Minassian again, not sure. Minassian, maybe he might have made a pit stop actually. He came out of the pits and he's not yet fully up to speed, so again there's traffic here playing a role, as it always does at Nazareth, and particularly when cars coming in and out of the pits, that's when it makes life difficult for the race leaders. And Minassian still not completely up to speed as Jimmy Vasser goes past in there, followed by Jourdain and Max Wilson in the mix as well, even though he is one lap down here though. Here are the three leaders down into turn 3. That is Kenny Brett there in second place. Here is Paul Tracy behind Paul Tracy. We haven't talked about him much today. Jimmy Vasser.
Jimmy Vasser, as we see him, and lots of talk about whether he goes to Indy. You heard Gilles de France saying he's going to Indy today, and that's actually going to be for him and Elio Castro-Neves and Michael Andretti. It's going to be very, very busy the next 4 or 5, well actually 6 weeks as they fit in qualifying at Indy, the race in Japan, the race back at Indy, and of course immediately on to Milwaukee.
Yeah, right, there's absolutely no peace for these guys at all. They're certainly earning their money over the next month or so. This man Scott Dixon, he's still out in front of the field. He's now gone 94 laps, I think, since he made a pit stop, and still looking very good indeed. There's a battle for third place building up. We see Minassian make another pit stop there. There is Jimmy Vasser in fourth place, and he's won here before in 1998. That was for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. Now driving for Pat Patrick and looking to get another win under his belt.
The Pac West entry of Scott Dixon and the Reynard Toyota that led at Monterey continues to lead here at Nazareth on the 1 mile oval, 3 turns, but being chased down by Kenny Brack, who led for the first 116 odd laps and then out of sync pit stops with everybody else, now has worked his way back up into the second spot by actually overtaking a few people, and is now trying to get close to Scott Dixon because we are running out of laps and they go by extremely fast here at Nazareth. 213 are complete of the scheduled 225, and if Dixon can go that long, if he's really, I mean, I guess at this point Bruce McCall and the Pac West team is probably just saying, well, if you come in, we're going to end up in about 15th position. If we leave you out there, you may get a win, we may get a yellow, and then again you may run out of fuel. But what are the options here?
Yeah, the options are, I guess, at this stage, maybe you take the gamble. There's still 13 laps to go, though, so quite a long way. We've got a yellow. Wow, that is exactly what he needs now. Will he make a pit stop or won't he? I don't know. The pace car again. The safety car almost came together again. Just need to get their act together.
Michel Jourdain, there you see him getting restarted and back out on the way. No contact, and I believe that was turn 4 again where they're having trouble.
Two spins at Nazareth and you get away with it. That's fairly amazing.
At 187 miles an hour coming off that turn.
You're not going quite that fast coming off the corner. You're still doing a good 140 or 50, that's for sure. You do about 190 going down into the corner. You're on the brakes and then you're on the power again. Look at him go. He's on the throttle leg. Great move. Oh, that was close. That was Christian Fittipaldi. The blue light special has flashed past in front of Michel Jourdain. But a great move by Jourdain to get on the throttle there and keep it away from the wall. Very prescient thinking there from the young Mexican driver.
That was about as close as it was with the pace car and the safety truck right in front of us here again.
Yes, it was, wasn't it? You're right.
So that yellow is going to help Scott Dixon immensely. Pit lane is closed at this point, though. So we'll try and gather our thoughts. Dixon, the rookie, leads. Kenny Brack is second, Paul Tracy third, Jimmy Vasser in fourth. If we take another look at Michel Jourdain's incident, he had his best qualifying effort ever. Third place start here.
The back end just came around and look at him there, fully on the throttle there, driving that car away from the throttle. Yikes, that was close. Good grief. Christian Fittipaldi, he must have, his heart was in his mouth, that is for certain. I'm not even sure whether Jourdain saw him there. He was more worried about just keeping that car off the wall, and he did that, but he has dropped back in. You know, amazing. 2 spins and he's still running in 13th place on the lead lap. That's quite remarkable. Very eventful day for Jourdain. Certainly not what he wanted. He thought he was going to be in contention for a win here this afternoon, but that's not the case. And meanwhile, Scott Dixon there, he is still out in front. Not only that, he has the advantage of a slower car, that of Max Wilson, another rookie driver in between himself and Kenny Breck. So I thought everybody's going to have to make another pit stop. They haven't been in yet, so maybe they're not.
As far as right in front of us at our vantage point, I don't see anybody laying out anything. Any equipment obviously wouldn't change any tyres at this point, but it may do a timed fuel stop. Looking back from Scott's car, Max Wilson right behind him.
And we should just also mention that Dario Franchitti is in 11th place. He did get past Roberto Moreno about 4 or 5 laps before this latest caution. So the strategy doesn't appear to be working in his favour. That they made that pit stop right before the green after that long extended caution, 60 or 70 laps ago. And now we're ready to go green again. And Scott Dixon, I know, was hoping that there was going to be a few more laps of yellow, but he gets a good jump there and pulls well away from Kenny Breck in second place as Kenny Breck and Paul Tracy size past the lap car of Max Wilson.
Max Wilson did a nice job, though, staying out of the way and letting that lead pack come through. 7 laps remaining here at Nazareth. Kenny Breck, getting very, very close to Scott Dixon.
Yeah, look how quickly he closed up there, because there was quite a gap, wasn't there, as they came up to the start-finish line. But Kenny Breck has closed up that time in absolutely no time at all through turn 2 there. Flew round turn 2. Scott Dixon, he's certainly got that fuel mixture turned way back. He's got that car running on a full lean mixture. You see some shuffling there at the back there. Cristiano De Mena, I think, might have got shuffled out. I'm not quite sure. Dario Franchitti trying to make a move. Dario Franchitti did get past Cristiano. Dario up into 9th place.
We talked about it before the show, Jeremy, and off the air, but talking about rookies getting their win on their first oval. Teo Fabi came very close in 1983. He won on his second oval in Pocono, which is, of course, just north of here. And the only other one we could really come up with was probably Jim Clark, who won Indianapolis as a rookie, and that's an oval. So Scott Dixon trying to do that. Of course, Kenny Breck, our Rookie of the Year from last year, trying to get his first win in the kart series. Battling it out, and they are running out of time with 4 laps to go.
Wow, and pretty good 22.4 there last time around for the race leader, Scott Dixon. Can he pull off a storybook victory here? It would be absolutely incredible if he could
Max
do it.
Wilson going incredibly slow into one. Everybody getting backed up behind him. Tony Kanaan had to have a huge lift. Tony, of course, he was leading this, and he had to make his pit stop for that fuel. He has rejoined, and now he is in 16th position, so a costly day for him. And of course, Shinji Nakano, who also came in for that late stop after finally getting word from the crew, from the Fernandez crew, is 15th. And we saw Adrian come in with his problems, and he never rejoined. Adrian Fernandez is out of this one. And this is where it all is right now, within about 100 yards of each other. Actually, add Jimmy Vassar to the equation too.
But just 2 laps to go. 2 laps to go for Scott Dixon. Less than a mile and a half now, just where we get the white flag next time around. And that's just absolutely amazing, the fuel consumption. This Toyota engine, of course, in this Reynard chassis. And he comes and he gets the white flag from Jim Montal.
He sounded a little bit off coming through one. Brack getting closer. About half a track length to go. Oh, coming up onto traffic too for Scott Dixon. Oh, Kenny Brack had a bit of a twitch. That's opened it up and into it. Here comes Kenny Brack. Getting very, very close. That twitch cost him. It looks like Scott Dixon is going to go on and score his first kart FedEx Series win. The youngest driver in the field today, and a rookie wins the Nazareth 225. Kenny Brack comes home in second after leading all day long and having the strongest car out there. And then Paul Tracy picks up third, and Jimmy Vassar in contact, a very close fourth.
You can hear the radio in the background.
There's
everybody coming
Bruce
over to
McCall.
congratulate 97 Fontana the last time. Bruce, what are you experiencing? I know this has been an emotional weekend considering what Mauricio has gone through. To now have this kid deliver like this.
It's just fantastic. We're just so thrilled that Scott's done a great job, and it's been a long weekend for us, but it's a great way to come out of it. So, and Mo, we miss you, and thinking about you and your family.
Great job, Paul.
Talk about opposite ends, of course. Mauricio not here, tragically, for the loss of his youngest son. But teammate Scott Dixon takes the win. Actually, he knows where Victory Lane is because of his lights experience here. He's seen where Victory Lane is, and he's managed to find it no problem right now. And Toyota.
Look at that.
This is after the finish, making contact with Wilson. Obviously so thrilled and happy, not concentrating. I believe that now makes Toyota 5 out of 6 as far as wins on oval, the last oval. So
remarkable, just amazing fuel consumption there for that Toyota RV8F engine. And I tell you what, I guess I owe you an apology because I really didn't take Dixon terribly seriously. That wasn't because anything to do with him. I just didn't believe you could do 109 laps on one tank of fuel, even though there was that long caution period. So incredible fuel consumption there from that Toyota engine, and great strategy by Pac West. And look at that, there's a good view of the hands device as well. Pac West on the back of it, and Scott Dixon at the age of just 20 wins his first Champ Car race.
Absolutely amazing. And as you heard, the first win for Pac West in quite a while.
97, yeah, and so a long lean spell there. They've switched engine manufacturers, of course, over the winter. They ran Mercedes the last few years. It was in 97. They won 4 races for Mercedes-Benz, and now Pac West first win for Toyota. And here is this extraordinarily talented young man. He won last year as his trainer there, Jim Leo, on the right there, congratulating Scott Dixon. And Jim Leo has worked very, very hard with Scott Dixon. He was a chubby little kid when he came over here a couple of years ago, and those two have worked so hard on building up Scott's strength and his fitness, and that has paid off this afternoon, Guy.
The only rookie in the field that has oval racing experience, and now it's showing up. Let's get a word with him.
Scott Dixon comes out of this car just pummeled by his teammates and his hard-working crew. Let me ask you first about fuel. When they said you were good to go to the distance, did you believe them?
Yeah, early on in the race we'd spent a lot of time just saving fuel, and we made a few early stops. We just had enough to go all the way, and then right at the end, with the restart, they just said you can go full fuel the whole way. So it's always nice when they say that.
Now, Kenny Breck working behind you all those last laps. You know his experience on ovals. How concerned were you about him finding an opening where he could challenge you or get alongside?
I knew, it was really only coming into 2 here where he was quite fast because we had a few problems on the kink here, but our car was extremely good through 2. And I knew if I could slow him down enough through there, and then we could get away again on the exit, because the car just power down-wise was brilliant. So I was a little worried there towards the end, and I kept looking up at the board to see how many laps to go, and I didn't believe we'd finish. So.
What does it feel like to win your first Champ Car race as a rookie in this competitive series?
It's really hard. It's amazing, really. Considering where we started, we had a very bad week, with Mauricio not running, and then, our Friday we did very few laps, so just couldn't have gone better.
Toyota has won 5 of the last 6. As far as the ovals are concerned, they see the unofficial final results. Dixon with the win, and by my calculations, Jeremy, I think that Cristiano D'Amato and Paul Tracy are now tied at 40 points each at the top of the championship. Bonus point to Kenny Bratt for leading the most lap, and of course bonus to Junqueira for the pole.
Yeah, and bonus indeed for Scott Dixon. A brilliant performance by him. That's just a great drive, and he thoroughly deserved this win today. It's going to be the first of many for this young New Zealander.
Next race is also an oval. It's the twin ring in Motegi, Japan. There are the points. You see Tracy and D'Amato tied at 40 apiece. Be sure to join us for coverage from Japan. Always a very good, entertaining race there too. Congratulations to Scott Dixon and the Pac West team. For Jeremy Shaw, I'm Guy Hobbs saying so long. You've been watching ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, go to ESPN.com. Ciao.